It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of the Locked On Red Sox podcast. I'm your host, Jason Mastrodonato, Red Sox columnist at the Boston Herald. And today's episode, I've got my notebook open right now to all of the players I've been writing down that are going to be free agents that the Red Sox might have some interest in. And when I say the Red Sox might have some interest, I am saying I have interest in them for the Red Sox. So this is more just me looking at players that I think would be notable players to pursue in free agency. And so I thought today would be fun as the World Series is still going on and the Red Sox are watching from home to take a look at some of these guys who are going to be entering free agency as soon as 5 days after the World Series ends and think about who might be a fit. Now, it's obviously speculated throughout the industry. There might not be a whole lot of movement until the new collective bargaining agreement is signed, which could take a while because the old one expires on December 1st, and there are already rumors going on about a possible lockout. And so we don't know what free agency is going to look like, but I'm going to talk about it as if it's just a normal offseason because who knows? It's so hard to say. We could be surprised. They could sign a new CBA right away. It could be very similar to the old one, and we could just be back in business with teams going and approaching free agency the way they always have. Or they could change the whole structure of the luxury tax situation where maybe there's now a salary cap, or maybe, they incentivize small market teams to spend more or decentivize big market teams to spend less. Or I didn't say that right, but you know what I mean. There's a lot that could happen. So it's so hard to speculate on that. So let's just look at this as if all things are equal and go through some of these names that I think are really interesting. So that'll be today's show. Thanks for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day in the Locked On Red Sox podcast. So let's get into it. I am, first of all, looking at the COTS Baseball Contracts website, which if you haven't been, is really helpful. They do a great job listing out all of the salaries that every team has. If you're kind of into the numbers like I am, you could see a very clear spreadsheet. And I'm looking at the Red Sox payroll for 2022. And it looks like by these calculations, they estimate arbitration salaries, and they have not included the contract or the options that the Red Sox have on Garrett Richards or Martin Perez. So they're assuming they decline both of those, which I would agree on. They're assuming that Christian Vasquez and his $7 million option gets picked up, which I also agree on. Although I do think there's a sneaky chance that the Red Sox don't pick up that option. I just have this feeling they really like Connor Wong, and if they do want to save money, I could see them going to like a Connor Wong, Kevin Plawecki situation, or maybe find another cheap catcher in free agency because there do seem to be a lot of really good defensive catchers out there. So I wonder if that's an option. But safe to say, probably going to pick up Vasquez's contract. So if you look at what the Red Sox have going into next year, they have about $175 million on the books. And that includes, unfortunately, the $16 million that they're still paying David Price. But that's a whole lot of money. So they've got some holes to fill here, and they're already at $175 million. So this is a team that doesn't have a ton of financial flexibility. Now, we don't know what the luxury tax threshold is going to be. We can estimate right now maybe it's around $210 million. If that's the case and the Red Sox want to stay under, which they probably will, although, again, we would argue why. They just stayed under 2 years in a row. And what are they waiting for? If you're going to spend. If this was a bridge year and it wasn't time to go all in, well, maybe now it is. Chris Sale's coming back. You only have so many good years of Rafael Devers and Xander Bogaerts left. And you don't even know if you're going to sign Devers. And Bogaerts could opt out after this year. So, to me, this is an offseason that's really interesting for the Red Sox. Will they be aggressive or not? And I think the safe assumption and the assumption around town is no, they won't be. Chaim Bloom's going to do the thing he's been doing, which is make incremental improvements, keep it kind of casual, try to find hidden gems, not spend big on anybody, not lock the team into any long-term contracts that are going to hamper them later. And that's a perfectly reasonable thing to assume. But I absolutely think you could argue that this is time to spend. That this is it, and they've got at least $35 million of flexibility. They could trade guys to open up flexibility, or they could say, "Forget it. This is the year we're blowing through the threshold. We're going to spend what we want to spend because this is an outstanding free agent class." So let's get into it. The obvious areas where free agency is so good is going to be the middle infield, where we have Carlos Correa, who's only 27 years old, still a superstar in this league. Not the player he was a couple years ago, where we thought he was going to be an MVP every year. He was getting compared to Alex Rodriguez. He had that back injury, and it just seems like he's been okay since, right? He had the down injury or the down year in 2018 when he was hurt. Pretty good bounce back year in 2019, although he only played 75 games. 2020 did not play very well, and he was solid in 2021. 850 OPS, hit 280, 26 homers. But he's just such a good overall player, and people are always going to see the ability, the upside. Hey, he can be an Alex Rodriguez type, and he's young. And we know teams love these guys who hit free agency when they're 27. They love to spend big on long-term contracts because they can project that they're going to be good for longer when they're only 27. So Carlos Correa and Corey Seager, a couple of 27-year-old superstars entering the free agent market. I do not expect the Red Sox to be in on either of these guys. I think Alex Cora is going to spend a lot of time in Chaim Bloom's ear saying why he wants them to be in on Carlos Correa. We know how much he loves Carlos Correa. They're both from Puerto Rico. Alex Cora coached him in Houston. They're really good friends. They talk about each other all the time. I don't think there's any question Alex Cora is going to be talking to Chaim Bloom about how he wants Carlos Correa. How does that even work? I don't know. I mean, I think this guy's going to get a massive contract, probably upwards of over $30 million a year. And how does that fit into this team? If the Red Sox spent $30 million on Carlos Correa, they've still got a lot of needs in the pitching end. They need a whole lot of pitchers on this team. So it's tough to envision them getting a guy like that. And then you move Xander Bogaerts to second, I guess, or to third, and move Devers to first, or somebody said, well, can Devers play second? He's always over there in the shift anyway. Yes, but we've never seen him turn a double play at second base, and I'm not sure that's something you want Rafael Devers to be doing, is taking slides to the knees at second base. So I don't know. I think it's really tricky. I do think the Red Sox have more position flexibility than we think. Like, it's certainly possible that they can move Bogaerts or Devers off one of their positions if they need to make room for a superstar. I don't think Carlos Correa is the perfect fit. You already have a shortstop. I know Bogaerts isn't the best defensive shortstop in baseball, but you know what? He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And if you look at the guys who had enough innings to qualify this year at shortstop, Bogaerts ranks third to last in errors. He only made 9 errors. I mean, I understand he doesn't have the most range out there, but he's a good shortstop. I've always said this. I thought he was an underrated defensive player his entire career. I still couldn't believe they moved him off shortstop to make room for Stephen Drew back in 2014. That was one of the more bizarre moves I've ever seen, to sign Stephen Drew in the middle of the season, move Xander Bogaerts off of his position, and obviously they ended up fixing that later on. But I think Bogaerts has been underrated defensively his whole career, and I don't think it's a priority to go out and get one of these guys like Carlos Correa or Corey Seager. The reason we're talking about them is because we have to. I mean, these are elite players, and this free agent market has a lot of elite players on it. Seager's another one. Seager is coming off a much better season than Correa. He hit 306 with a 915 OPS. He has not had the down seasons that Correa's had. He had one bad year. You could say bad year. He missed the majority of 2018 when he was hurt. He's otherwise been an elite hitter. He has played a little bit of third base, not a lot, but a little bit when he first came up in 2015. So there's another guy. Seager's interesting because he bats left-handed. I think he fits much better in the Red Sox lineup. If you want to get that left-handed bat, remember that's why they acquired Kyle Schwarber this year. They thought they needed another left-handed bat, which I completely agreed. And you could argue with Schwarber going to free agency, they certainly need another left-handed bat. Would it be Corey Seager? Could they make room for Corey Seager? Of course they could. Any team can make room for Corey Seager or Carlos Correa. It's a matter of, is this a priority? And I don't know that the Red Sox can make these guys priorities. In the old days, if Dave Dombrowski was here, we'd say they're going to sign someone. If it was Seager or Correa or Max Scherzer or Freddie Freeman or, one of these huge names, Robbie Ray. That's the kind of thing that Dave Dombrowski would do. I just don't think that Chaim Bloom's going to do that. And it's hard, for me, it's hard to argue to go out and get Correa or Seager when they don't have a huge need. They already have a really good offense. Yes, they need to fill holes. But if you're spending anywhere, to me, it's on the pitching side. So probably not going to be in on them. Let's keep this going. I do want to take a quick commercial break, and we'll get right back to it. We're brought to you by Built Bar. Built Bar is the best protein bar you can find in the grocery store or online. If you are looking for a quick snack, if you're looking for some energy on the go, and you don't want to waste a lot of your sugar or waste your calories that day on something quick, grab a Built Bar. It is the healthiest way you can grab a protein bar. Only 4 or 5 grams of sugar, under 200 calories, 18 grams of protein in most of these. The flavors are great. German chocolate, cookies and cream, strawberry, so many. You can check them out. Get a mix box on built.com. Again, it's built.com, and make sure you use our promo code. It's LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your order. It's the official protein bar of the United States track and field team. Go to built.com, try some Built bars, use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off.
David Harrison here, the Locked On Washington Football Team podcast, celebrating with you a 21 grain salute to a less boring sandwich thanks to Dave's Killer Bread. I don't know about you guys, but when I eat pizza, I eat it for the toppings, not the crust. And when I eat a sandwich, it's for what's inside the bread, not for the bread. But when I throw a sandwich on 21 whole grains and seeds, thin sliced bread from Dave's Killer Bread, it is the epitome of addition by subtraction. That thin sliced bread lets me focus on what's inside the sandwich, but also adds to the sandwich with killer taste, killer texture, killer nutrition, a subtle sweetness, and a seed-coated crust. Dave's Killer Bread is America's #1 organic bread for a reason. It tastes so stinking good. Dave's Killer Bread is made with the highest quality organic and non-GMO ingredients and is power-packed with whole grains, fiber, and protein. Visit daveskillerbread.com to learn more and look for Dave's Killer Bread in the bread aisle of your local grocery store.
All right, we're back, and I'm still in the middle infield here because there are some names. Marcus Semion's another one. I really wanted the Red Sox to give Marcus Semien a look. He obviously last year, he obviously had a phenomenal season in Toronto. 45 homers, played every single game. He's one of the few Iron Men left in Major League Baseball. He's been doing this for most of his career. 2017 was the one year he didn't, but otherwise he's been a guy he plays every game. He had 724 plate appearances last year. Hit 45 homers, hit 265. Probably will finish in top 5 in the MVP voting, and only made $18 million. The Red Sox obviously chose Kike Hernandez, so it's not like they chose terribly. But do they look at Semien again? He's another year older now. He's 31. He showed he can play second base really well. The Blue Jays are probably going to want him back. Are they going to be issuing him a qualifying offer? Yes, almost certainly they're going to make him a qualifying offer, which means there would be draft pick compensation attached to him. So I don't think Marcus Semien is a particular perfect fit on this team, but of course, the Red Sox need a second baseman. I don't think there's any question. I am not all in on Christian Arroyo. I don't think you can go into the spring training and say Christian Arroyo is our second baseman, and we don't really have any competition for him other than Jeter Downs, or who had a terrible year in the minors, or maybe some $1 million player, or they go out and sign like Marwin Gonzalez or someone like him. oh, you're Christian Arroyo's competition. And that's how you end up in a situation where you don't have a second baseman. Because Arroyo's been hurt a lot. You still don't know how he would handle a full season. I think he's your backup or your utility man. And it's better if you can find yourself a second baseman. So, in that regard, Semien makes some sense. But are you going to commit a huge chunk of your payroll to him? Because he's probably going to cost at least another $20 million a year. And you're already paying Xander Bogaerts $20 million as your shortstop. You're going to have to pay Rafael Devers up way more than that starting in 2 years. So it's hard to say that they should be spending that kind of money. Trevor Story, another one, 29 years old, had an 800 OPS in Colorado this year, is going to probably make some good money. Is he a guy the Red Sox pursue? Probably not. But these are the guys that are out there this year. It's a really good middle infield class. And then you go down a notch. You look at guys like Eduardo Escobar, 786 OPS, 33 years old. I think he'll be a sneaky good signing for somebody. Maybe not the Red Sox. Or do you keep going down the list and you look at Jose Iglesias, 700 OPS. He's 32 years old. I like Iglesias a lot. We saw what he could do at the end of the season with the Red Sox. He's just a sneaky good hitter. He makes contact. He puts the bat on the ball. He knows how to hit in situation. He's just a fantastic situational hitter, in my opinion. And he's so smooth on defense. You could use him as a backup shortstop if you need to. He's a phenomenal shortstop. I wouldn't mind seeing Jose Iglesias back at a modest contract. I can't imagine he gets more than maybe $5 million. Something like that, maybe a little bit more. I don't know. We'll see what the market looks like. There's so many guys out there, but Jose Iglesias to me is a more reasonable target. Someone who could be the second baseman. Maybe if he's in a slump, Christian Arroyo takes over, and maybe Iglesias is a utility man. Someone like him who's not going to cost you a lot, who can handle the bat a little bit, who can play really good defense. I think that's probably where they're going to go. Now, you start looking at the first baseman, and this is where it gets interesting. There are a really good first baseman out there. We know about Kyle Schwarber, who I think they should absolutely be trying to re-sign. I just don't know how much it's going to cost. Because if you look at the first basemen that are out there, I'm going to give you the four big names, including Schwarber. I'm going to call him a first baseman. You got Anthony Rizzo, 32 years old. Freddie Freeman, 32 years old. Brandon Belt, 34 years old. Now, these guys are elite proven hitters. All three of them hit left-handed. All four of these guys actually hit left-handed. And Belt had the best year out of all of them, 975 OPS in San Francisco. Phenomenal year for the Giants. His contract's out. Freeman had an 876 OPS in Atlanta. He's been fantastic. He's 32. We know Anthony Rizzo had a pretty solid season. Not the best. 783 OPS. He's 32. Kyle Schwarber's 28. He's 28 years old. And he hasn't been a model of good health. And we don't know how he'd handle first base over the long term. I do think he can play the position. He had a 928 OPS this year. I think his bat is just as good, if not better, than all of these guys. I mean, he's right up there. I mean, Freddie Freeman's a Hall of Famer. Rizzo probably not, but a very, very good player. Brandon Belt a little bit older. These guys are going to cost you some money, and I don't think the Red Sox are going to be able to afford Freeman or Rizzo. They're not really going to want to pay that much for either one of them. Belt might be cheaper because he is 34. He's kind of an interesting guy. But Schwarber, to me, if you can get him at a discount because teams are looking at him as a DH, he's only 28. We saw how good he fit in this lineup. That's someone I could see them really going after. And I think Schwarber is a guy that you have to absolutely at least be talking to him and see what's going on. Now, they have 5 days of exclusive negotiating rights with Kyle Schwarber after the World Series ends. They could be talking to him right now if they want to, and they'll have 5 days after the World Series ends. I'm guessing he's going to go to free agency. Usually these guys do, unless for some reason Alex Cora just sold him on the Red Sox experience, and he says, you know what, agent, sign me up in Boston, even if I have to take a discount. Just get whatever the best they're willing to give me, I'll take it. Very rarely does that happen, but you never know. Maybe the Red Sox extend them before their 5-day window is up. But, all right, last infielder I wanted to talk about was Chris Bryant. 835 OPS. He's only 30 years old. This is a former National League MVP. Plays some corner outfield, plays some third base. real nice player. I thought the Red Sox should have acquired him at the trade deadline. The Giants didn't really give up much for him. They just took on the contract. And the Red Sox were being kind of cheap about that. Didn't want to take on money. And Chris Bryant basically went to San Francisco for nothing other than the paycheck that he was earning. And Chris Bryant's a real nice player. We know that. I don't think the Red Sox are going to be in the market for a third baseman. I think they're pretty committed to Rafael Devers at this point. And so I don't see Chris Bryant being a fit, but he's obviously a great player. These names out there. Oh, the guy I forgot to mention, who I also have written down here, Javier Baez. Puerto Rico connection with Alex Cora. Only 29 years old. He can play short. He can play second. The problem with Baez is he swings and misses so much. He doesn't draw walks. He strikes out a lot. And I think where the game is going, it's not going to benefit the way that he plays. And so I don't see Javier Baez being a fit, even though I'm sure Alex Cora would love to have him at second base. So of all the guys I just named, really good hitters out there. Really the best free agent class we've seen in a while for infielders. I think Schwarber's the most likely to come to Boston. And after that, again, I think Jose Iglesias. And I know both these guys were here this year, so it's easy to see them returning. But I just have a hard time seeing Chaim Bloom going after any of these guys. And if you have an argument for why they should, I totally understand it. I get it. You can make that argument. This is the time to spend. Bogarts and Devers aren't going to be here forever. You've got a core. This is JD's last year. This is probably Bogarts' last year. And depending what they do with Devers, you only have 2 more years with them. So it's go time. But the question is it go time in the infield? Or are you better off spending money somewhere else? So I will do a pitching episode tomorrow, but I want to hit on the outfielders that are available and a few guys who caught my eye there. So stick around for that after a quick commercial break. We're brought to you by betonline.ag. BetOnline is the best way to get your gambling action. If you're into the betting, this is where to go. We've got a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit right now at BetOnline with the promo code LOCKEDON. They have all different specials that they always have going. You could check them out if you look at the website right now. They also have a cool mobile app. So sign up at betonline.ag. Get your 50% welcome bonus with the promo code LOCKEDON and start betting on basketball, football, baseball postseason, NHL started, NBA, boxing, UFC, whatever it is that you're into. You can check the lines out on betonline.ag. It's the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. And they've got specials all the time. So check them out. Use the promo code LOCKED15 and get your 50% welcome bonus at betonline.ag. All right, so let's finish up here with the outfielders. There's not, for as good as this class is in infielders, the outfielders, not particularly overwhelming. The one guy everyone's going to be talking about is Starling Marte. Starling Marte is one of my favorite players in baseball. He's just so exciting to watch. This he flies. 32 years old, he stole 47 bases this year. Unbelievable. And this is at a time where nobody steals bases anymore, where teams are so afraid to run because the metrics say, hey, if you get caught, it's not worth it. Outs are so precious. And when I first started covering baseball in 2011, all the managers and coaches used to tell me, if you can do it at an 80% clip, it's worth it. If you're stealing bases at anything less than 80%, you're hurting your team. And I haven't really heard that number change. I'm sure it's somewhere around there now, but with all the analytics, it seems like people are less inclined to run than ever. Stolen bases are as low as they've been in a long time. Not this guy. This guy has gotten better. He tied his personal best in 2021 with 47 steals. He was only caught 5 times. And he played mostly on the Marlins. He got traded to the A's in the middle of the season. He only played 120 games, and he had 47 steals. It's not just the steals. I think it's really important. I think it's exciting. I think, I'll always go back to the 2013 Red Sox and what made them so interesting and so difficult. And I'll always remember what Joe Madden told me and a couple people who I was with after that season in spring training 2014. Joe Madden said it's a much different look now, the Red Sox lineup now, because they don't have Ellsbury and Victorino, and those guys, the speed that they have, you feel it. When they got Ellsbury 1, Victorino 2, one of those guys gets on base, and immediately the pitcher's nervous, and the catcher's nervous, and they're paying attention to the runner. And Joe Madden said that was the biggest thing that he thought made the Red Sox good in 2013 was that speed they had at the top of the order. They obviously did not bring back Ellsbury, which turned out to be a great move. But they haven't had that since Mookie Betts left. Mookie gave them that speed as well. Kike Hernandez not really much of a stolen base threat. They had leading off this year. I love Starling Marte. I do. He would fit in so well with this team. Play some center field. Let Kike Hernandez play second, where he could be a Gold Glove winner at second. Starling Marte is a 2-time Gold Glove winner, by the way. I know he's older now, but obviously he hasn't slowed down. He just stole 47 bases. I definitely could see them looking at this guy. I think defense is one of the things that, as we see the rise in analytics and people, trying to pay for any incremental addition to WAR value, I think we are seeing guys who play good defense get a lot more looks, and it's going to make it harder to get a guy like Starling Marte who plays good defense, still has a little bit of pop. He only hit 12 homers this year, but had 27 doubles, 3 triples, hit 308. Has been a good hitter his entire career. He is a guy who had 4.7 WAR this year, which, based on the old adage, I think, they used to say 1 WAR is $8 million, but that goes up every year. I mean, that means he's like close to a $40 million player. He's obviously not going to get $40 million, but I think teams are going to look at him and want to spend some money on him. So I don't know that the Red Sox will be going all in on Starling Marte, but if for some reason they decide they want to spend on a hitter, and for whatever reason it's not Kyle Schwarber, I'd say Starling Marte is my number 2 choice of who they should be spending on, just because of the fit, where he would give you some speed at the top of the order. He would give you a Gold Glove presence in center field, and he instantly gives you a Gold Glove presence at second base because now Kike Hernandez is playing second base. And you can move Kike around, which is really what they signed him to do. If Christian Arroyo gets hot, if somebody gets hurt, Kike can play short. Kike can play anywhere. So I would love to see them sign Starling Marte. They're probably not going to, but of all the outfielders on this free agent class, I think he's clearly the elite choice and the guy that fits the best for the Red Sox. Now, there are some interesting corner outfield names out there. Nick Castellanos, who had a 939 OPS. He's only 29 years old. He could opt out of a contract with the Cincinnati Reds, which he probably will, and get some good money to play corner outfield somewhere. Probably not going to be the Red Sox unless they decide to trade Alex Verdugo or trade Hunter Renfroe, which they could do. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Both of those guys are in arbitration now, so it's not like Chaim Bloom says, well, they're cheap, so we're keeping them. I mean, they're both going to start making money. Michael Conforto, the other one, the Mets outfielder, had a down year, only a 729 OPS, but he is 29. He is a former top prospect. People love these guys. I think Conforto will get some good money. Probably not here. And Jorge Soler, who's leading off for the Atlanta Braves, had a real nice season when he got traded. Was not good until he got traded, so his numbers aren't great. 29 years old. Typical power-hitting corner outfielder. Just a nice name. Probably nobody the Red Sox are interested in. I don't think they're going to be adding a corner outfielder. Maybe a cheap guy like another Hunter Renfroe, another $3 million type to give them some depth. But if they were looking at outfield, I'm sure it would be in the center field position. And that allows you to push Kike over and gives you depth elsewhere. I'm not going to talk about the catchers because, I don't think that the Red Sox are likely to do anything there. They'll probably bring Christian Vasquez back. So that's the position player outlook. I went over the biggest names I think the Red Sox will at least be calling about. Again, I don't think they're going to be in on most of these guys. We're not going to hear them attached to Correa or Seager or Baez or Story or Freddie Freeman or, Brandon Belt. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. But I do think there's a good chance they bring Schwarber back. And you never know on Starling Marte. I'm going to just leave my hopes in that they're interested in him, because I would love to watch him play. I would love to see him in Fenway, and I'd love to see Kike Hernandez at second base every day and see if he could be the second baseman we've been waiting for since Dustin Pedroia stopped being the everyday second baseman in Boston, because the Red Sox really haven't had a great second baseman since Pedroia. And while it feels like yesterday that he was here, it's actually been quite a while now since he's been their everyday second baseman, and it's been a problem. So it'd be nice to see them have a really good everyday second baseman in some way. That'll do it for today's show. Thanks so much for stopping by. You can read my work in the Boston Herald or find me on Twitter at jmastrodonato. You can follow the Red Sox, the Locked On Red Sox Twitter account. It's LO_Red Sox. And check back tomorrow. We have another episode. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. If you want some more baseball podcasts, I highly recommend the Locked On MLB podcast, where they talk about all the prospects. Arizona Fall League had an interesting run, and there were some Red Sox out there doing some things in Arizona. So check out the Locked On MLB Prospects podcast, and have a wonderful day.
What is up, Boston sports fans? It's Ian McLaren, host of Locked On Boston Bruins, here to remind you that a new NHL season has begun, and the Black and Gold are in it to win it. Patrice Bergeron is entering the final season of his contract. There's some uncertainty about his future, but he, Brad Marchand, David Pastrnak, Charlie McAvoy, Taylor Hall are ready to get going. Please subscribe to Locked On Boston Bruins on your favorite podcast app, and also subscribe on YouTube to watch the podcast daily.